Let's talk all things US, because as much as I said at the beginning of the show tonight, Carolee, about the question of trust, about the question of lazy media and questions not being asked, and either stupid, lazy or corrupt in the sense of the way they work their logic, they're running an agenda rather than asking questions. The way in which US politics is playing out right now is leaving the door open for Hillary Rodham Clinton to come back. I've got my Impeach Hillary badge at home already dusted out, ready for her. But the questions that are being asked and the commentary, you know, it's like a completely opposite universe. Donald Trump says, "Here we go. I can walk on water," and they criticise him for not swimming. I mean, it's extraordinary what's happening in the US right now.
Look, it's shocking because I think there was a report the other day where Tammy Duckworth is perhaps going to be Democrat Joe Biden's running mate, the vice president, and she wants to remove everything that George Washington ever stood for. And I'm thinking, you know, without George Washington, there would have been no America. And they're going on and on. I mean, you know, 1776. They were, you know, that without that win, they would have still, America would have been under the British and the French still, you know, War of Independence. They're going on and on about Christopher Columbus and what he did in 1492. We all knew the ditty, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. I mean, the thing is, they are going completely bonkers about this. Yeah, well, you know, but they're going all bonkers about just history. It is history. We learn from history. You cannot look through the prism of the eyes of 2020 back to 1492. We learn from history, but it's becoming like a mob hysteria. But when you start attacking George Washington, I mean, you've completely lost it. And, you know, the Democrats, that will probably be Trump's biggest draw card, because when you start doing that, you just know that these people don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I think, Daisy, that it's actually driving a whole lot of voters to say, "Oh, look, you guys can play all these stupid games. We'll get a vote on the 3rd of November." My suspicion is the more of this malarkey that goes on, the more it is that Trump is going to look attractive to a hell of a lot of American voters.
Look, I really hope so, but the mainstream media that hates him is such an absolutely colossal force that I don't know how he actually manages to kind of cut through the noise. He's got Fox News, which is generally full of the faithful and very, very, very prolific, you know, top ratings all over the place, but it is so hard to cut through all of that absolute dross that gets tossed around. You know, anything that Trump says, it has to be bad. And it was particularly exposing with the riots recently when Trump was tweeting about Antifa, you know, radical leftist violent group, and saying Antifa is starting the violence, which they were. However, the media and the Democrats and everyone jumped on that and said, "What are you talking about? Antifa doesn't exist. It's not even a group. They're not even there. It's just white supremacists faking things." Meanwhile, Antifa was not only tagging themselves at the scene of these riots, admitting to it all over Twitter. There were videos coming out of people in Antifa uniforms running around in black bloc and punching people. But because Trump had said it, the media had to suddenly go against it. It was so exposing. So I'm sure Trump has a plan to circumnavigate the media. He inevitably does. I'm just fingers and toes crossed that he manages to win on November 3rd.
I mean, look, Bronwyn, I have a trust of the people, and whether it's betrayed or not, time will tell. But, I mean, when this bizarre letter gets written into Harper's magazine, signed by so many people, I mean, I don't know why. I think everybody in America just about signed it. It was just this kind of elitist bunch of people, people who are academics, people who are very important. You ask them, they'll tell you, all going off about Trump. It just makes a lot of people who have said, you know what, he's drained the swamp and now the swamp is biting back. You always knew the swamp was going to try and uproot the building. This is very nasty American politics right now.
Well, I think Trump is quite capable of looking after himself. He'll get all his ducks in a row and he'll deal with the ducks. With regard to that letter, I mean...
A few gooses too, I think.
With regard to that letter, it really was a very interesting read, wasn't it? It was proclaiming righteousness and justice on one hand and denying it to the people they don't like. But it's the same with all revolutionary movements. That's what they do. And it doesn't matter whether it's Robespierre or whether it's other intellectuals.